Hi you guys, welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and today I'm going to be doing a very quick tutorial on how to do my shallow triangle shawl. Once again, this is another shawl in the Basic Shapes series where I'm not really showing a pattern here, but how to create the shape of this shawl. And from there, you can add eyelets like I did in this one. You could add, an alternated rib stitch. You could do a basket stitch. You could do a lemon peel stitch. You could do, a moss stitch. You could add whatever you want to within the design of this shawl. So this particular example is about 6 1/4 to 6 1/2 feet long on the top edge, but the drop on this is only about 3 feet. So we're looking at a 50% ratio of drop to the top edge. In this sample today, as I'm doing the tutorial, I will be showing this to you in double crochet using 2 DK weight yarns. I will be using the Lion brand mandala yarns. Today it's Thunderbird and Poseidon together. And I've been doing this just because I have way more cakes than I'll ever be able to use, and I want to ensure that the shawls that I'm donating actually bring warmth, not just decoration. So I do like the fabric that this gives me for these kinds of, especially these basic shape shawls where the shawl itself is very simple and basic. The yarn is kind of what's being shown off, but I also just like marled looks, and I like the way using 2 cake yarns, striping yarns go together. You don't really have a hard break anywhere, and your eye kind of tricks you. Like a spot like this from a distance does not stand out because the gray continues and the yellow transitions. So there's no particular reason for that. I will be using a Clover Amour hook. This is in a 7mm size. So this is 1/2 millimeter up from a K, which I think is a 6.5. This is what I had. I did this sample with a J hook, and I wanted something just a little bit looser this time around. So I went up a hook size, and I couldn't find my actual K hook. So this is what we're using. You can use any stitch, like I said, to achieve this. You could use a single, you could use a half double, you could use a double, and then the internal stitches could all be whatever pattern stitch you choose. You can do this with any weight yarn, any size hook. There's no gauge to this. This is, I'm working to whatever size I think works. Actually, in this one, because the way I did the separation of the eyelets, I just decided 5 rows after the eyelets looked best, and that's where I ended. This isn't a strict pattern. This is just to give you the idea of how to create this beautiful shape. And also, the top edge is exceptionally true because of the way the increasing is done on the upper edge. It stays very straight and very true, even without blocking. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this shape. As with the half circle shawl, I really look forward to seeing what you guys do with this. You guys really amaze me and astound me constantly, and what you do from my jumping off points with these basic shape patterns. So I will get my yarn all stranded up, take a sip of my coffee. If you guys are familiar with my channel at all, you will know the day this is going up, I'm trying to film a whole bunch of stuff in a 2-hour period, as well as get a meal in here. So this tutorial should be very, very short. If you want to follow directly along with me in doing this tutorial, you will need to know how to chain and double crochet. That's it. So if you want to directly follow every stitch for stitch I do, you will need to know how to chain and double crochet for this tutorial. As soon as you can do those 2 stitches, you will be able to make this beautiful shawl. So I will come back in just a second. Alrighty, you guys. let's dive into this super easy, super basic tutorial. If I can get my hook and my slip knot here. So this, once we do the setup, this is a 1 row repeat. You will be doing the same thing every row. Your increasing is done the same every single row. This is a 1 row repeat. When I say this shape is super easy to create, I am not playing around. It is almost impossible to mess this shape up. So I am going to start with my preferred. I'm going to do chain 4 just to make the top of this lay just a little bit smoother. You could use a magic ring. You can do a chain 3 if you are good at doing looser chains. You will have a couple extra stitches from your basic increased shawl going in here, so just a heads up on that. So my preferred way on doing an exposed edge that I'm not going to be bordering is actually to chain up to create the ability to move up and to turn my work. And then I'm going to do three double crochets into my hole here. All right, so this is our first. You will see this 3 double crochets appear again. Now we're going to create the tip of the shawl, which is double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. If you want to tighten this and it'll only shorten it a little bit, but shorten the drop even more. You can drop this down to a single chain instead of 2 chains to create this. Also, you could do this as a solid shawl, and instead of doing chains, you could add an extra stitch in here. That's one of those up to you things. All right, so now we have done our first set of stitches, created our point, and now we're going to do another 3 double crochets. So row 1 on this is super duper simple. It's 4 double crochets, chain 2, 4 double crochets. I made it way more wordy than I needed to, but those sections are very important to identify now. So 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets, chain 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets. Row 2, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and the first stitch we will do 3 double crochets. Like I said, those 3 double crochets are important to remember. Now you could also, if you have beautiful edges with your chains, you could chain up whatever number you would do for a double crochet. Once again, the purpose of this tutorial isn't a draconian, you must do this. It is to give you the idea of how to create the shape. Now we're going to double crochet in our next 3 stitches. Oops. One, 2, 3. Now, for our point, double, chain 2, double into the hole. So we have created a 2-stitch increase on our outer edge. We have come in and increased 1 stitch on this side on the inside edge. So we've increased 2 on the outside by doing 3 stitches, increased 1 by adding a stitch where there was not previously a stitch. So now we've added 1 on this side. We're going to double crochet into our next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, draw some more yarn out of my cakes here. I don't start dragging on camera. In real life, when I'm just working, frequently you'll see me with a pile of yarn that I've pulled out because I can't stand when I'm working and my tension gets thrown off because I'm not pulling easily out of my cakes or skeins. So I'll just pull out a spaghetti mess like that and just have it sitting in my lap until I hit the point in my skein where it draws out nicely. All right, so we have our corner here, 1, 2, 3. Now we're gonna do 3 stitches and our last double crochet. Once again, doing this on camera and looking through the lens makes this way harder. That stitch should not have been as tight as it was. 1, 2, 3. And believe it or not, you now have the pattern for the entire shawl. It doesn't look like it now because right now that looks like an arrowhead and like it's going to drop way low down here. But as we continue, chain 1, and you can also, if you like my method, you can do a very loose chain 1, turn, 3 double crochets in your first stitch, 1, 2, 3. You're going to double crochet all the way down onto the point. My elbow keeps slipping on the table here. I guess the next thing I need to do is put some shelf liner down so I don't make funny noises. All right. So we crocheted, double crocheted all the way down, double, chain 2, double into our point, crochet every stitch up into the last stitch, my yarn tangled up here again. Looped around my pinky finger. Okay, into my last stitch here. We're gonna go 1, 2, and 3. So your pattern, literally moving forward, you can see where like at first this is going to kind of curl up just a little bit, and then as you get more width on it, it's just going to start laying super true and flat while your point comes down. I mean, it really is kind of magical the way this kind of instantly takes shape. But your pattern is crochet 3 into your first stitch, crochet all the way down side 1, create your point, which is in this case a double, chain 2, double, chain all of your stitches up to your last stitch, and your last stitch you're going to do 3 stitches into that. So you're doing 2 increases here, 2 increases here, and 2 increases here. Each point technically has 2 increases. This one just also has a space. But these are 2 new stitches you're creating down here. And then turning 1 into 3 also creates 2 new stitches. And that's why this has the room to flare from here all the way up and allow that top edge to grow wider than the drop of the shawl itself. So 3 all the way down, 1 space, 1 into the previous space, increase, or 3 stitches into 1 for your final stitch. And you just do that over and over and over again. When I added the eyelets on my first sample shawl there, I didn't perfectly have my stitches, so I made sure I stayed even here on that first eyelet row. And I actually ended up adding 2 stitches on either side of the point the first time I did it. I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera. Well, you can see it. So you can see here, that's a stitch and a stitch in side by side. And then we have our increase here. So this is actually a second increase just so I could keep the eyelet pattern going. But when I got to my subsequent rows, that wasn't the problem any longer. So don't be afraid to kind of wiggle your stitches, finesse your stitches into place if you run into something like that. I just made sure that my side-to-side increases were duplicated in the center, and I kept my edges true with the way I did the spacing up here. So it was my 3 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And on the other side, it's a double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, 3 double crochets. So I kept this edge very straight and true, did not increase any more than the 2 stitches there. And I let this extra increase sit in the center where it would be obscured in the fan of the shawl instead of creating a bump on my outer edge. I hope that was useful for you guys. I hope I explained to myself well and how I created the shape to this shawl. Once again, like I said, this is just so you know how to design your own shawl using this basic shape. You're essentially creating 2 new stitches at your 3 points consistently to create that wider edge and that slower drop. Normally, you would increase 1 on the top edge because you'd put 2 stitches there. And then you would increase 2 down here, which creates a much longer drop and a shorter top edge. So just a slightly different variation on a super simple shape and design that you can now go and turn into whatever you want. I hope you guys have a wonderful, fantastic day. As always, please share your pictures on Instagram. Tag me so I ensure that I see them, or you can share them in the Facebook group that is in the description box down below. If you're not already a member to the Facebook group, please make sure you answer all 3 questions so I know you're not a spam bot. Anyway, I love you guys, and I will see you real soon.